Hello, mindful friends. Today we're going to be talking about hope and how cultivating hope can help ease those moments where we feel despair in our lives. And in Thich Nhat Hanh's teachings, he said that one of his biggest challenges was not falling into despair. And you can imagine that when you're in this realm trying to create goodness, trying to create peace in the world and kindness, you automatically run into a lot of the darker side of life. So whether it's that people are coming to you with their despair, or their darkness, or their troubles because they want to find that peace, or it's that you're doing this kind of active cultivating work in those places where a lot of darkness resides, where there's a lot of despair. And in doing that work, yes, you have dedicated your life to creating peace, but at the same time, that means you've dedicated your life to being very aware and present in those moments of darkness, in the difficult, in the muck of life, because you know that it's there where transformation happens and where most peace needs to be developed and cultivated and grown. So naturally, you're going to have this dichotomy between the peace that you're cultivating, the goodness that you're cultivating in your practice and what you're kind of holding on to in your heart, and this darkness that you are encountering every day, that you're coming in touch with, that you're reading about, that people are bringing to your door because they're suffering and they're in pain. So there's this balancing of both sides of, yes, you hold on to your hope and what you're creating, but the kind of darkness of what you're trying to bring hope to can also kind of weigh you down and brings that heaviness into your life. And Thich Nhat Hanh faced this constantly. And in his work, he was this place of peace, this generator of peace, this teacher of peace, but he'd bring it to all these places where there was war, where there was division, where segregation and judgment existed. So he said that his biggest challenge was, how do you hold on to that hope of your practice when you are amongst all this darkness? And that sometimes he would fall into despair because something would happen. I think one time where he really felt it is where his dear friend Martin Luther King Jr. was assassinated, and it's like, you're doing all this work to create peace, and then something like that happens, and how do you not fall into despair? And it happens to all of us on whatever scale we're working on, that we cultivate this and we're creating this practice to bring light into our lives, but then naturally it butts heads up against what's difficult in our lives and what we're facing and the challenges. And if we're trying to create positive change, we're naturally coming into contact and working with the darkness. So what helps us in those moments where we do start feeling the despair and we're kind of noticing the darkness creep into our lives is that we remember that hope is an active, intentional choice that we have to, create a little bit of effort into cultivating. As we remember the things that bring us that peace, that engage us with the things that are our deepest intention, and we actively engage. So, I remember reading about Thich Nhat Hanh that in the moment of despair is he would go quiet for a while. He would retreat into his room and just come back to his practice of breathing and recentering. And, that was his way of returning to center, returning to that practice of peace. And that all of us need to do that. How can we actively be choosing to cultivate that goodness within us, that hope within us? And that hope is not placed in blind faith, that if I just keep believing or I just keep hoping, this is just going to change and happen for me. It's that understanding of what brings goodness into life. It's a confidence more than anything of, I know these certain practices help bring goodness into my life. I know that going to these certain sources feed the goodness within me, or being around these certain people feed the goodness within me, or I know that going out into nature and spending time with the trees and the forest and the mountains brings me peace. So it's not a blind faith, it's a confidence. It's a learning what feeds goodness, and it's a choice to engage with that and feed that. And then that brings in the hope, because we see as we're doing these things and we're feeding these things and fueling them, what grows? Well, the goodness grows and the peace grows, and then we're watching and it's spreading outward, and it goes to the people that we care about, and people around us are starting to feel it. And then we remember that hope is engaging in, acknowledging the presence of this goodness in the world around us. So we remember what it is that's most important to us at our center, that true intention of, yeah, I am here to create positive change. I am here to generate more peace and kindness and compassion. And then it's also turning outward and choosing to see where that's happening. So looking for it, engaging with it, helping it to grow. So it's an active process. It's not just sitting back in your room and saying, I have faith in something else is going to help this. I have faith that it's going to grow. No, it's an active process of having confidence in what you know works, that engaging in goodness works. The certain practices you've developed to create goodness in your life, they work, and they grow more of those energies you're trying to cultivate. And then that hope is like, wow, I acknowledge and I see that this is really creating positive change. I see that goodness still exists in life. And we actively search out and pay attention to where that's happening in the world around us. And as we're doing that, the hope grows. Oh, yes, it's still here. Yes, it is growing. Yes, my participating in these certain practices does help it to, grow within me and in the people around me. And then, we have that balance of, yes, of course, and when we're growing that, we see the darkness that's still out there and how much work still needs to be done, but there always has to be a balance. Because if you're just looking at everything that needs to change and everything that's, still kind of stuck in the muck, that's when we get in despair. There's always a balance. So remember what brings you that peace and that hope, and then know that if we cultivate that and we keep that strong, we can be out in the world engaging with and in contact with the harder sides of life with hope. With hope that is the confidence that you know how to find goodness here. You know how to grow goodness here. And that makes hope really strong, because it's not just blind faith in something. It's your knowing. You're knowing that this works. You're knowing that this grows goodness, and trusting in that. So I invite you this week to remember, what is it that you're really trying to cultivate in the world, or the change, the peace? What are you trying to feel? And then come back to hope of feeling the confidence in your practices, in your self-care techniques, in the groups you go to, in the people you associate with, that grows that within you. And then let that be an active process of bringing that into the world where despair has been kind of creeping in, and let that just take action and start shifting so that you can see the goodness in the world around you. If you ever have questions about any of these teachings, or have ideas for new topics, please share them in the comments below the video. And if you'd like to join us in group sessions or individual coaching, you can find us at newleafmindfulness.com. And don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. I hope to see you all very soon.